What's up, Theory Creeps? I'm the Theory Creep, and today we're going to be talking about a film and a movie. That's right. I think we're going to be doing a little bit of a new series here on the channel, a film and a movie, where we talk about one kind of legitimate piece of high art or film and one kind of schlocky B movie. Today, we're going to be talking about Tropic Thunder and King of Comedy, or as I like to call them, King of Thunder? Tropic of Comedy? They're actually both pretty good names. Okay, so why are we talking about these movies? Well, as you've probably picked up, if you have watched a few of my videos, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Theory Creep. Here we like to talk about celebrities and cultural theory and how celebrities interact with culture. So the same way that authors love to write about writing, filmmakers love to make movies about celebrities and making movies or television in the case of King of Comedy. So both of these movies are obsessed with the celebrity identity. And in the case of King of Comedy, you have Robert De Niro playing Robert Pumpkin, and he is a celebrity in making, or in the making, or at least in his mind, he's a celebrity in the making. He thinks he's going to be a famous comedian, and he engages with Jerry Lewis as a kind of icon hero, but in his mind, he's also close friends with Jerry Lewis, which, as you'll see in this scene, is really just a figment of his imagination.
Where is everybody?
What everybody?
What everybody? Everybody. The guests, Jack. I mean, to tell you the truth, we're getting a little hungry.
You know, I could have the both of you arrested.
You could have us arrested. Well, of course you could have us arrested. I mean, there's no way that we can prove that we belong here. He's great. When he comes up with an idea, he's terrific.
So King of Comedy really goes out of its way to distinguish between fantasy and reality. Pumpkin's mind is like radically different than the world around him, and the film reminds us of that pretty constantly. Like, you see his kind of delusional kind of stand-up sets or televised interviews, and like the film is not confused about the fact that these are like schizophrenic delusions. And as Pumpkin engages with the real world, he's often confronted with the fact that he's not famous, he's not funny, he's awkward, people don't like him. But in his mind, he's this like highly charismatic, highly loved personality. And as we'll see, he kind of brings this persona into being. He just believes that he is a charismatic celebrity so thoroughly, even though everyone around him in the movie kind of sees that he's this awkward personality. He doesn't see himself that way, and through violence, literally, he kidnaps Jerry Lewis in order to get on. You know, let's just watch this scene real quick.
Direct from New York, it's the Jerry Langford Show with guest host Tony Randall and his special guest Shelley Winters.
What's going on here?
You know?
Fortunately, yes.
Okay, well, just sit tight, relax, everything will be okay.
My first guest, you'll agree with me that he's destined for greatness.
So there's two things about this scene that I want us to keep in mind. First, the framing of it, right? Like, we're watching a TV, presumably, or a theater, or watching a projector screen or something like that. Like you, me, we're in a room watching a screen, watching Pumpkin watch a screen in a bar. There's a layer of mitigation here. And that just should remind us that we have still never actually seen Pumpkin be charismatic. We haven't actually seen him be the charming stage persona that we see him as in this scene. We're not seeing that. What we're seeing is a representation of it on screen. So that's the first thing I want us to keep in mind. And then the second thing is that for the entire movie, Pumpkin has been this awkward, shitty, kind of abusive personality to everyone except for himself. And this is the first time we see other people validating that kind of persona. The first time we see people accepting him as a charismatic, kind of lovable celebrity. And we don't even see it, right? It's not there. We're watching him show a television screen to someone who is convinced he is an asshole.
Now, a lot of you are probably wondering why Jerry isn't with us tonight. Well, I'll tell you. The fact is he's tied up. And I'm the one who tied him. Well, I know you think I'm joking, but believe me, that's the only way I could break into show business. By hijacking Jerry Langford. Right now, Jerry is strapped to a chair somewhere in the middle of this city. Well, go ahead and laugh. Thank you. I appreciate it. But the fact is, I'm here. Now, tomorrow you'll know that I wasn't kidding and you'll think I was crazy. But look, I figure it this way. Better to be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime.
So this is a pretty typical celebrity narrative, I think, right? Like, people love celebrities when they're on screen, but when they engage with them in person, often the stories are that they're these like selfish, self-involved kind of prima donnas. But once you give them a script and you give them fancy lighting and you put a nice soft lens on them, you know, they become lovable. And that's exactly what happens to Pumpkin in this narrative. And I think the film goes out of its way to remind us that this is a representational personality. In real life, Pumpkin is a shithead. In film, televised life, he's this like charming, lovable personality who's literally joking about kidnapping someone and people are like laughing it up. And the film is kind of vague about whether the audience is even really absorbing what he's saying. Like, keep in mind that this is a studio audience in the 80s. So they've got like the big laugh sign above him that like lights up when he tells a punchline. So like, are they laughing at him or are they just laughing at a man in a suit, you know, in front of lights telling them jokes with like the cadence of a traditional comedian? Like, it's a really good movie. If you haven't seen King of Comedy, it's a fun watch, and I think it's a very interesting representation, like I said, of the celebrity identity and the kind of disparity that we used to see in the a kind of performative celebrity versus the real life celebrity. So I think this is a thing of the past. I think that celebrities these days, especially like online influencer type celebrities, they don't have this division between performative identity and real world identity. The celebrity existence has become a total one. It's become something that the celebrity lives in all the time. And I also think it's become, or maybe it always was, I mean, that's a harder thing to really speculate about, but I think that today, at any rate, the way that celebrities form their identities really informs the way that we, the audience, the anonymous masses, form our identities as well. I think that celebrities kind of are role models for identity formation for us, but we can talk about that later. Right now, we're talking about a film that represents this kind of total celebrity identity, this like inescapable performative existence. And that film is Tropic Thunder. It's not very good. I think it was written by Ben Stiller. I think it was directed by Ben Stiller. It's not very good. It's really not a very fun movie. There's a few kind of like punchy lines here and there that I admit I did laugh at, but for the most part, it's just a Ben Stiller movie. Like, it's not very funny. But it does kind of accidentally represent the celebrity experience in a really interesting way. So Tropic Thunder exists entirely within the spectacle. The film, or I should say the movie, opens with a series of ads or like trailers for films that the characters in the movie, who are all actors, have starred in the past. So if you can imagine the kind of theatrical experience, you're watching a bunch of trailers for actual upcoming movies, and then you watch a bunch of trailers for films that characters in the movie you're about to watch have made, films that do not exist. There's also like a rap video commercial, because one of the actors in the film is also a rap star. So it's very immersive as like a theatrical experience. We really live in the world of the movie. There's no space in the film outside of the film, which is kind of hard. It's not exactly how I mean to say that. Like in the movie King of Comedy, there's like this space that's represented in the film that is outside of film. You know, Jerry Lewis is on screen and he acts a particular way, and then he's off screen and he's kind of a self-entitled asshole. In the case of Tropic Thunder, there's a similar divide. There are moments when the characters are on screen, and then there are moments when they're off screen, but this is disregarded by the film like almost immediately. Like I would say within the first 10 minutes, we leave the traditional set where characters are in character, on camera, acting, and then they're out of character, off camera, talking to their agents and being themselves. Within about 10 minutes, Nick Nolte and the director of the film, which is also called Tropic Thunder, which makes discussing this movie a little bit difficult. But the director of the movie and Nick Nolte, who is the writer of the book that the movie is based on, decide to take the stars of the film off the set into the jungle where things will get real, supposedly.
You must put those boys in the shit.
But I don't understand.
You want to make your movie or not?
Yes. I'd like to.
All right, you get some of those little video-type cameras. We take them up there and we put them in the trees in different angles. Then you give me and the pyromaniac Cody all the smoke bombs, charges, explosives, detonators you got.
So already we're seeing a departure from the traditional kind of stage audience, or like stage, backstage, or whatever, however you want to draw that divide. Tropic Thunder gets away from it almost immediately. Now, Tropic Thunder does still have production scenes. Not everything in the movie takes place in the kind of ambiguous space that the actors occupy, which we're going to talk about in a second. Right now, I would like to talk about the production moments in Tropic Thunder, which mostly take place between Matthew McConaughey and Tom Cruise. And these are almost more performative than the scenes that are on set, that are in Vietnam or Laos or Cambodia or wherever the film takes place in the Golden Triangle. These production scenes have like full out music videos in them. Like Tom Cruise is wearing this ridiculous costuming that is like overtly a costume. Like, I don't know what's going on with his hands, but like they're bigger than they should be. Like he's wearing prosthetic gloves or something. Like he's so inhuman that we cannot watch these production scenes and accept them as like the real of the film, where the fake of the film is like on set. These like again, like we've got like overt costumes, we've got totally over the top acting in the case of Tom Cruise and McConaughey, and then literally you have like music videos, like where people, or where Tom Cruise for the most part is like breaking into dance and rap numbers. Like we cannot accept this as real. The film will not allow it. So the traditional kind of nexus of reality, of objectivity in this kind of like set offset dichotomy is exploded by Tropic Thunder. And now we can talk about the actual set environment of Tropic Thunder.
Welcome to the goodie room.
You paying attention?
So the actors believe, or at least Stiller's character believes, that the jungle is the film set. It's rigged up with hidden cameras and hidden mics, and he believes that the death of the director seconds after they land in the jungle is all part of the performance. I don't know if Stiller ever gets out of this perspective in the film. He seems to kind of lose his mind from within it, and then the movie just kind of ends.
Now, let's go and make the greatest war movie ever!
Yeah!
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 Oh.
So the jungle is a war zone, literally. It's filled with, who are they? They're like heroin manufacturers or something, and they see the actors in the jungle as like DEA agents.
老大，我的这边部听到了爆炸的声音。
快跟着他！
是的。走吧。
And this reinforces Stiller's kind of fantasy that he is actually in the movie that he is making. And it's unclear whether he thinks that he is like method acting in like a strange like reality TV type set, or if he has fully lost his mind and just believes he is Four Leaf, a young Nick Nolte in the Vietnam War.
Don't you get it? He's messing with our heads. That's what all that playing God stuff was about. He's trying to get us to act good, save the movie.
He ain't playing God. He's being judged by him.
Like this scene here easily could have been in an absurdist play. Like I'm not sure the writer, who again I think is Ben Stiller, or like this was ghostwritten by some dude and Ben Stiller put his name on it. But like I don't know if they know how smart this scene is. Let's just watch this real quick.
Sir, you have no idea where you're going.
Yes, I do! I'm going to... Exterior, rainforest, dusk. Smash cut to Four Leaf, who treks alone through a frightening jungle. Suck on that unit, Kirk!
So Stiller's character is 100% in the space of the film. He is Four Leaf. He completely adopts the character that he's prescribed in the script. He loses his mind a little bit later in the movie, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for now, let's compare Stiller to De Niro in King of Comedy.
Beautiful here.
You on the set?
I am the set.
All right, man. Hey, how's the Tito working out?
Stiller's character is Four Leaf. He has completely adopted the persona that was prescribed to him in the script. He might go off script a little bit later in the movie once he gets kidnapped by the heroin manufacturers, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for now, I would like to compare Stiller and De Niro. I'd like to point out that they're actually very similar, right? Like Stiller's character is this method actor who completely adopts his persona, his scripted persona, but De Niro's character isn't an actor, right? He's a comedian, and he has completely adopted his persona as this like suave, charismatic, kind of, stand-up, kind of always on stage, always joking, always trying to charm people. So if we isolate the characters from the world that they're in, they're actually both pretty similar as far as their relationship to performance. What's different about these movies is actually the world around these characters. Everyone around Pupkin, De Niro's character in King of Comedy, they hate him. Like, they see that he's just a schmuck, that he doesn't matter, and they also see that he's like kind of rude and a liar and like self-involved and just just not a very nice person. The world in Tropic Thunder is every bit as performative as Ben Stiller. The world shares Stiller's kind of schizophrenic inability to distinguish between the real and the performative. And I think that is really what makes Tropic Thunder such an interesting film, especially when you compare it to King of Comedy, where, like I said, you've got these two dudes at the center of these two films who are basically the same. Like they've lost their self. They've lost their anonymous personal inner self, and they've completely become their performance. But the world around Pupkin, like I said, doesn't accept his performance. The world around Pupkin has an understanding of the real and rejects Pupkin for having a lack of understanding of the real. Whereas Tropic Thunder, Stiller's just a commodity. He's just another thing to be bought and sold in the kind of industrial world of filmmaking. Like in this scene, which is after he gets kidnapped, and we'll cover that in a second, but in this scene, we really see that Stiller doesn't matter. Stiller isn't the center of this world. He's just another performer.
It's a cold, hard world. Shit happens. We'll weep for him in the press. Set up a scholarship in his name. Eventually, and I'm talking way, way down the road, we file an insurance claim. Preferably before the end of the fiscal year. Actually, the claim alone would net us more than the movie would lose.
And performers are essentially commodities in Tropic Thunder, right? Like they're just about that. They're just an item on a balance sheet that can be balanced off against an insurance claim, for example. So yeah, the nature of celebrity is really interesting here. So now let's talk about the kidnappings. Okay, so both films feature a celebrity kidnapping. De Niro kidnaps Jerry Lewis, and the heroin manufacturers kidnap Ben Stiller. So there's a lot to break down around these kidnappings. So let's just start with the parties involved. The kidnappers in King of Comedy, which is Pupkin and I should know her name. I really like her. I can't remember her name though. So Pupkin and a female comic who is hilarious kidnap Jerry Lewis, and their goal is to get Pupkin on stage, to get Pupkin a set on Jerry Lewis's show. It's a pretty simple, straightforward trade. This is not the case in Tropic Thunder. The heroin manufacturers are not trying, obviously, to get famous. They're not trying to get a set on a TV show. And if you think about it, of course they're not. They're already in a movie. The whole film takes place in the reality of the film. There's no real world in this movie. So why would these heroin manufacturers, who may also be Viet Cong like fighters in Cambodia, like why would they want to be on screen? They're already on screen. So because they are who they represent, and again, there's no kind of space off camera, of course they want money. Right? Like they're heroin manufacturers or they're rebel fighters. And of course they want money to buy guns and bombs and, whatever. They need resources. They're an insurgency. So that's what they look for. So the differences in the kidnappers, I think, are really important because we see that in Tropic Thunder, there's no need to become famous. There's no drive to be seen, because everything in the world is spectacle. Whereas in King of Comedy, the only reason you would kidnap someone famous is to become famous yourself. Like there's a divide between the anonymous and the visible, and there's a real hierarchy to that divide. If you're seen, if you're visible, you're better than if you're anonymous. Especially if you're someone like Pupkin, and you really kind of value yourself, like your sense of self-esteem comes from your success as a celebrity. So I think we've already touched on this, but the other party in the kidnapping, the negotiators, the people who are trying to arrange for the release of the kidnappee, they also have a completely different relationship to the kidnappers and the kidnappee in the two different films. In Tropic Thunder, we've got Tom Cruise, who is completely disinterested in the safety of Ben Stiller outside of an asset, right? Like, when he thinks that he's going to lose money because Stiller is unavailable to shoot the film, he's super aggressive and threatening and tries to threaten the kidnappers in order to assure Stiller's safety.
I will rain down an ungodly fucking firestorm upon you. You're gonna have to call the fucking United Nations and get a fucking binding resolution to keep me from fucking destroying you. I am talking scorched earth, motherfucker. I will massacre you. I will fuck you up!
As soon as he's informed that he could just declare this as a loss and kind of file an insurance claim against that loss, like, ba-boom, he doesn't really care about Stiller anymore. The film is going to make money whether or not it's a success, whether or not it even gets made. He's going to make money off the insurance claim. So we see a lot of the new kind of nature of the commoditized celebrity. The celebrity isn't this like, elevated, privileged individual. There's not a hierarchy between the unseen and the seen. Everyone is seen, everyone is spectacle, and everyone is kind of evaluated on their value as spectacle or their value as commodity in the case of Stiller. So while we're talking about the kidnapping, I'd like to just discuss Stiller's reaction to being kidnapped, because it's quite complicated, and it'll lead us into the last thing I want to talk about in this video, which is Robert Downey Jr.'s use of blackface. I don't think you can talk about Tropic Thunder in 2021 without mentioning that. But first, let's talk about Stiller and his reaction to being kidnapped, because the kidnappers at first think he's a DEA agent and then quickly realize that he is a celebrity. But in keeping with the film's kind of postmodern hyper spectacle status, they don't recognize Stiller as an actor. They recognize him as a character in a movie that they have seen. Let's just show the clip.
What? You are Simple Jack.
You saw Simple Jack?
We love the tale of this man, Simple Jack. We do not have any luxury here, and Simple Jack is the only movie we possess.
Oh, you got the VHS.
So Stiller does this very interesting thing once he's been kidnapped, right? Like, he is a celebrity and he feeds off of his audience, off of being watched and worshipped, as you would expect a celebrity to. So once he develops this relationship with his kidnappers where he's performing Simple Jack, he starts to become Simple Jack. He loses touch with the kind of distinct and clearly defined four-leaf character, the Vietnam era soldier that he was representing, and he kind of becomes this like weird liminal half Simple Jack, half four-leaf character.
You're the last piece of the puzzle, buddy. We need you. Your men need you. Are you with us?
I'm a rooster illusion.
Fuck it. We'll deal with him later. Let's move.
He kind of slips from between his two characters into this kind of dark, lost space. And for the brief moments that he's in this darkness in the film, I was really reminded of Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. And if you think about it, Kurtz, for those of you who don't know, Kurtz was like a special forces soldier or colonel who was sent into Cambodia, I think, in order to train and activate local indigenous populations to fight against the Viet Cong, presumably. It's not really that clearly laid out in the film, but I think it's a pretty safe assumption. Anyway, Kurtz like loses his mind as he's engaging on this mission. Like he starts to convince the indigenous peoples that he's a god, and then he starts to believe that myth himself. Does this sound familiar? It's not. It's not that dissimilar from everything that's happening in, I guess, both of these movies, right?
I watched a snail crawl along the edge of a straight razor. That's my dream. It's my nightmare.
So Ben Stiller and De Niro and Kurtz all kind of become who they're pretending to be. They lose touch with their real self and just kind of become a performance. So I think it's interesting that Kurtz is kind of subtly referenced in Tropic Thunder. Again, it's not accidental. It's a Vietnam movie, right? Like, of course, they're going to reference as many Vietnam movies as they can. But again, like the script scene in the river, I think this is like accidentally way smarter than it meant to be. All right, so let's get to Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Kirk Lazarus. Kirk Lazarus, which is an interesting name, Rebirth. He's a famous method actor in the reality of the film. He always seems to kind of adopt the character he's playing, on camera, off camera. Again, it's kind of consistent with the themes of the film. But what makes Lazarus interesting is that he is he's like a halfway method actor. He uses this expression over and over again in the film when he's talking to Ben Stiller's character, who and this is really interesting. Okay, so Ben Stiller's character played a character named Simple Jack, who was a lot like I Am Sam, like a developmentally challenged, kind of cry hard piece, like a tearjerker drama film. But and I'm not sure if this happened with I Am Sam. I was too young when it came out to be aware of this. But Stiller's character for Simple Jack received a lot of kind of negative feedback from audiences and from critics. They thought it was offensive, and frankly, it is offensive. Stiller has gone, in the words of Kirk Lazarus, full retard. He's not going halfway. He's going all the way. He's not doing like a caricature. He's not intentionally representing developmentally challenged people in like an entertaining or a dramatic way. He's going in the reality of the film. He's just behaving as if he is a mentally challenged person, which is not the case, right? Like, again, because this is all spectacle and because this is all performance and it's all over the top, in the reality of the film, going full retard is actually like mocking developmentally challenged people and actually being like a full-blown caricature instead of like a designed caricature to trigger specific feelings, whether it's like laughter or pain. Stiller doesn't have the kind of nuance that Lazarus does, where he can kind of step halfway into a character. And that's what Lazarus is doing in Tropic Thunder. He's playing an African-American Vietnam era soldier in blackface. So I'm sure Robert Downey Jr. caught a lot of flack for this in 2009 or 2008 when the movie came out. But yeah, if he didn't, get like blacklisted from Hollywood for doing this, I think it's because in the reality of the film, he actually wasn't playing an African American person. He was playing a white person, an Australian person, being racist. Like, he was playing a racist. He wasn't playing. He wasn't himself being racist by portraying blackface. So Downey Jr.'s character has kind of built into him this like half measure, this kind of mitigated representationality, and as he moves around in the reality of Tropic Thunder, he manifests this all the time. He gives people acting advice. He talks about how he's this like famous personality who's worked in all of these different films, and he really takes on the role of like the leader and the kind of senior actor in the troupe, but he does so in blackface, using like a caricature African American accent. Like, it's again a weird half measure, and that's what makes him so distinct from Ben Stiller's character, who is like full blown all the way in, doesn't distinguish like acting from not acting from performance, doesn't distinguish like the acting environment, the on-stage environment from the off-stage environment. And I guess I mentioned Robert Downey Jr. As well, because he has this really amazing moment where he falls out of character, where he removes his blackface makeup and kind of loses track of who he is, the same way that Ben Stiller kind of falls from between characters as he steps out of Four Leaf and tries to step into Simple Jack. He kind of gets lost in the space between them. Lazarus does the same thing when he realizes that the movie is over and that he can like kind of conclude his role. I forget what his character's name is. But anyway, when he can conclude his role as the African American soldier, he again, like Stiller, loses track of who he is. It's a really weird, again, kind of like deeper scene than I think belongs in a movie like this.
No. Sergeant Lincoln, Luther.
We gotta roll out.
Lord, am I Father O'Malley? Put me Armstrong. I think I might be nobody.
So to wrap up talking about Tropic Thunder, which I realize kind of got the meat of the analysis in this episode, but that's okay. It's a pretty interesting movie, although admittedly it is nowhere near as good as King of Comedy. So if you're gonna watch two of these movies, watch King of Comedy. It's by far the better film. But anyway, just to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about Nick Nolte's character in Tropic Thunder. He is Four Leaf. He's the author of the book that the movie Tropic Thunder is based on. Again, not a real movie. The movie in the movie. Nick Nolte's character, Four Leaf, is a liar. He's adopted a persona. I think he was in the Coast Guard or something. He's not who he says he is. He didn't serve in Vietnam. The events of the book that he wrote are completely made up. But he's representing a character the same way that everyone else in the reality of the film is representing a character. Literally, the movie opens with Ben Stiller losing his hands in the final scene of Tropic Thunder. And Nick Nolte insists that he lost his hands in Vietnam. So he walks around with like hook prosthetics. Like, nothing is real in this movie. Like, Nick Nolte is supposed to be the true story that the reality of the film is being based on. And he's a complete fraud. And again, way smarter than this movie deserves to be. There's this amazing line where Danny McBride's character is like scolding Nick Nolte for lying to him. And
you lied about fighting the Vietnam War. It's like punching the American flag in the face, God damn it. God, I think I believed in you. Writers lie all the time.
What is thunder? An echo of lightning. We see the flash and wait for the clap. Thunder is an afterthought. Like representation, it follows something real. Tropic thunder is a thunderclap without lightning. It is representation without a subject to represent. If lightning is the origin, the father, then thunder is the supplement, the son. So thunder without lightning is an orphan. The orphan, who is secondary and supplemental, by their very existence, challenges the supremacy and the originality of the parent, because they aren't tied to a family, but persist nonetheless. The orphan is lonely, but they aren't alone. They are among a mass of others. Today, we are all orphaned. We are all thunder without lightning. We are all performances of who we are. We are all writers, and we are all liars.